Brazil, you've talked, you've inspired, you're a poet, you're a writer, you're like, I mean, I read your bio and I'm like, when I grow up I want to be like MK.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I read that, I'm like, dude, it's out of control. How did it start? Who inspired you? What made you become who you're becoming? And who you are. I mean,
dude, what a question. That's such a straight out the block. What made me me? Well, water, as we've learned today, is what originally made me me. And you, but and you, but I mean, for me, it was really about tapping into the power of art and realizing the power of my own voice and starting to use that to transform observations into obligations, seeing the power and the impact of art on me, being a consumer of art first, you know, having art change my life, you know, reading something or hearing something or seeing something that had a profound impact on me. So that's what kind of got the wheels turning for me. And then, you know, I'm a passionate person, so once I start doing something, I invest everything into it. And so I've just been, you know, trying to use art as a vehicle to change the world, basically.
Nice. Were you the kid at school who was always getting straight A's, or were you looking out the window? What were you up to at school?
That's hilarious. I was a kid that got kicked out of every school I went to.
Damn straight.
I was about to wear my Bad Kids shirt today, but no, I got kicked out of all the schools I went to, was suspended, you know, they thought I was the one that they thought wasn't going to be anything. Like, this kid isn't going anywhere. And so that's how most of my schooling was. It wasn't until I was at like the last ditch place that I went was this alternative school, and where they did art and they kind of exposed you to different things. And that was kind of what saved my life in a lot of ways, because that's what exposed me to to art and just different ways of thinking and you know, alternative ways to live, essentially. So no, I wasn't that straight A student at all. And you know, Mark Twain said something I always think is so amazing: don't let school get in the way of your education. And even now as a professor, I always tell my students that, like, you're in school, this isn't necessarily an education. Education, if it happens in school, you're lucky. But it doesn't all happen in school anyway, even if some of it can happen in school. Education is the world, it's getting out there, it's experiences, it's out there. No, education is here. It's here, it's here, it's here, it's here, right? So that's, you know, that's really important.
Education today seems to teach us what we can't do rather than what we can do. It doesn't unlock our potential. You know what I mean? It's like teaching, you walk into a classroom of kids and say who can, you know, who are this big, and you say who can sing, who can dance, who can draw, they'll all put their hands up.
Exactly.
You walk into a classroom of university students, none of them
would do it, because it's been killed. The creativity has been sucked out of them. The imagination has been...
How do you stay creative? How do you stay creative? What, like, you must go through spells like every creative where you're like, it's gone, it's over. My creative
I'm always creative.
Or are you just always pumping that? You're just a creative machine.
No, I never have writer's block. I never have a dull moment. I always have great ideas.
Full of color.
No, like, you know, you struggle through those moments, obviously, but what helps is being around creative people, being around positive energy, being around people who think differently, being around people who haven't had that imagination sucked out of them by the school system that wants to teach it's based on the industrial system, you know, wants to teach everyone to be an obedient worker, you know, just follow instructions, don't ask questions. See, that was my problem. I was asking
curiosity. Like, I mean, for me, curiosity is my one word. Like, I love it. It's like if I had a dictionary and it only had one word for me, it'd be about curiosity. What would a word for you be if you had a word that you had to have? My
word,
like your little headstone, you know, one day it may just have something. Like, what would your one word be?
Transformation.
Transformation. And what do you want to transform?
Well, I want to transform realities that I see. I want to, you know, I want to transform myself, like, constantly. Like, I'm constantly transforming, you know what I mean? Like, and that's the nature of, like, you know, the caterpillar thinks it's death, right? But someone else calls it a butterfly, and it's life, actually, you know what I mean? So
there's no death in the jungle.
There's no death. It's constant transformation and regeneration. And so I think that's something that's been, like, emblematic in my life, is transformation and growth and that evolutionary process. So that's my word. I bet if I had a couple more minutes, I would come up with a better word. But I still like transformation.
Come back to it. And so if you were to go out and like spend a day with anybody, you could be anyone, dead or alive, who would you want to rock with?
Damn, who would I want to rock with?
That's a hard one as well. We can come back to
That's a great one. I mean, I would want to check out...
I'll give you a few.
Okay.
Whoever, man.
Okay, I would want to check out that's too, I was gonna say Gandhi. It's kind of cliche, but I do want to check out Gandhi. Yeah, like I would want to go back to ancient Egypt and check out, like, you know,
crazy pharaohs.
Yeah, crazy pharaoh like Ramses or someone, and just kind of see, like, what are you thinking about? What's your philosophy?
Do you think aliens built the pyramids, or was it the Egyptians? Because, like, they say it's some crazy, like, complete triangle that can never be built.
You know, I think it goes back to what we were saying yesterday. There's so much we don't know. Yeah. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, but definitely like the ancient Egyptians. Probably want to check out, honestly, like I would want to check out like my great-great-great-grandfather. You know what I mean? Like, people like that, like, they're not famous, but I just would want to know, like, what was it like back then, you know? And there's this other dude, Oscar Michaud. He was the first black filmmaker in America. He made like 40 films in like the 1920s, and he couldn't even do anything. He wasn't even a citizen, basically, but he was able to do I would want to spend a day with him, because he wrote the books, adapted into movies, wrote the movies, directed the movies, produced the films, and then had to create his own distribution system, because obviously in the 1920s in America, there was no distribution for black films. So he's someone who I want to spend a day with, just to see like what that grind is like and like what his vision is.
Well, and so you're a filmmaker, you're an author, you write, you know, what's next? What are you up to? I know everyone, it's the horriblest question ever. Like, what's next? Like, what's now isn't good enough, because, you know what I mean? But I hate that.
Yeah,
what's
yeah.
Now, man? Like, what's like?
I mean, well, for me, like, each of these different mediums is like a different language. You know, you speak Japanese, you speak Swahili, you can communicate with people. So the language of poetry, the language of cinema, the language of fiction, those are languages that help you communicate with the world. Next for me is I've got a book coming out next year called Buck. And it's basically, it's a memoir. It deals with my life between the ages of like 13 and 17, that real transformative period. Buck, that's why I'm wearing these. And so Buck is, that's what's coming out. And then there's a movie related to Buck, there's a documentary. But then I'm also working on a project called Project Zero, which is with the UN, and it's basically kind of similar to this. It's a big concert in Africa, but it's all geared about raising awareness about HIV/AIDS in Africa. And the goal is, Project Zero is because zero discrimination, zero HIV, that's the goal. And so we're trying to do that. And so that's happening in Africa. And then there's one other project that I'm working on called LISRO, which is essentially an online social networking site, but with a very important cause rooted into its fabric. And so it's kind of unites the world in terms of important causes through different lists that people create.
Do you sleep? What do you do in your downtime? Like, what do you do? You just like put on like shit TV? Do you like watch American Idol?
I don't watch them. I do. You know,
well, there must be
trust me. You know, I chill. I chill. Yeah, I'm.
PlayStation.
For me,
you're obviously a sneaker freak, man. Like, those are some pretty dope kicks, right? You've gone out and found those things.
Yeah, well, I had to get them because they said Buck.
Yeah.
Like, when I saw that, I was just like, okay, this is ridiculous, because my book is called Buck. But you know, yeah, when I'm chilling, I like enjoying nature when I chill. You know what I mean? I like enjoying nature. I like just kicking it with my family, my friends, listening to dope music, you know what I mean, watching films. And yeah, I fuck around and just watch whatever and talk shit and do what everyone else does, you know what I mean?
Totally, man. But if you have a bit of an advice, I mean, this will be the last question because I know interviews get boring, but like, you just had a bit of advice for someone who's starting out, who doesn't maybe have the confidence, or doesn't have, you know, the means, or it's just like, it's too much of a challenge for me. What would you say? Like, what is your bit of advice to someone if they're just starting out to be a writer or a filmmaker or a creative or a storyteller or an artist? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I would say as a writer, all you're doing is just rearranging the alphabet, so don't trip too much on it, you know what I mean? That's all every writer is, just rearranging the alphabet. Whether you believe you can or can't, you're right. That's one of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten, is, you know, when I used to think I couldn't, then I couldn't. And then when I started thinking I can, then I started doing this shit. So that's one of the other pieces of advice. And just start. You know, if you're a writer, write. If you're a filmmaker, film. Just do those things. I mean, sometimes we prevent ourselves from just even starting because it's so daunting in our minds, but just start and don't think about where it's gonna go and the logistics and the business. Just do it for your, you know, follow your heart, do it because you love to do it. Don't do it for any bullshit reason, and I think you'll find happiness in that. Cool.
Man.
Thanks, man.
Give us a hug. Do you want to just give us a little, give us your name? You're watching MYOOZE.com.
Cool. So, MK Asante, writer, filmmaker, professor. You're watching MYOOZE.com. Everybody log in, tune in, and tune out. Tune out to tune in. One. Word.